Section 5 of the Wonderful Adventures of Nils. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Lars Rolander. The Wonderful Adventures of Nils by Selma Lagerlöf. Translated by Velma Swanston Howard. The Great Crane Dance on Kullaberg. Tuesday, March 29th. Although there are many magnificent buildings in Skåne, it must be acknowledged that there is not one among them that has such pretty walls as old Kullaberg. Kullaberg is low and rather long. It is not by any means a big or imposing mountain. On its broad summit you'll find woods and grain fields, and one and another heather heath. Here and there round heather knolls and barren cliffs rise up. It is not especially pretty up there. It looks a good deal like all the other upland places in Skåne. He who walks along the path which runs across the middle of the mountain can't help feeling a little disappointed. Then he happens perhaps to turn away from the path and wanders off toward the mountain's side and looks down over the bluffs. And then, all at once, he will discover so much that is worth seeing, he hardly knows how he'll find time to take in the whole of it. For it happens that Kullaberg does not stand on the land, with plains and valleys around it, like other mountains, but it has plunged into the sea as far out as it could get. Not even the tiniest strip of land lies below the mountain to protect it against the breakers, but these reach all the way up to the mountain walls and can polish and mould them to suit themselves. This is why the walls stand there as richly ornamented as the sea and its helpmate the wind have been able to effect. You'll find steep ravines that are deeply chiseled in the mountain's sides, and black crags that have become smooth and shiny under the constant lashing of the winds. There are solitary rock columns that spring right up out of the water, and dark grottos with narrow entrances. There are barren, perpendicular precipices and soft, leaf-clad inclines. There are small points and small inlets and small rolling stones that are rattlingly washed up and down with every dashing breaker. There are majestic cliff arches that project over the water. There are sharp stones that are constantly sprayed by a white foam, and others that mirror themselves in unchangeable dark green still water. There are giant troll caverns shaped in the rock, and great crevices that lure the wanderer to venture into the mountain depths all the way to Kullman's Hollow. And over and around all these cliffs and rocks crawl entangled tendrils and weeds. Trees grow there also, but the wind's power is so great that trees have to transform themselves into clinging vines that they may get a firm hold on the steep precipice. The oaks creep along on the ground, while their foliage hangs over them like a low ceiling, and long-limbed beeches stand in the ravines like great leaf tents. These remarkable mountain walls, with the blue sea beneath them, and the clear, penetrating air above them, is what makes Kullaberg so dear to the people that great crowds of them haunt the place every day as long as the summer lasts. But it is more difficult to tell what it is that makes it so attractive to animals, that every year they gather there for a big play meeting. This is a custom that has been observed since time immemorial, and one should have been there when the first sea wave was dashed into foam against the shore, to be able to explain just why Kullaberg was chosen as a rendezvous in preference to all other places. When the meeting is to take place, the stags and roebucks and hares and foxes and all the other four-footers make the journey to Kullaberg the night before, so as not to be observed by the human beings. Just before sunrise they all march up to the playground, which is a heather heath on the left side of the road, and not very far from the mountain's most extreme point. The playground is enclosed on all sides by round knolls, which conceal it from any and all who do not happen to come right upon it. And in the month of March it is not at all likely that any pedestrians will stray off up there. All the strangers, who usually stroll around on the rocks and clamber up the mountain sides, the fall storms have driven away these many months past. And the lighthouse keeper out there on the point, the old vrouw on the mountain farm, and the mountain peasant and his housefolk go their accustomed ways, and do not run about on the desolate heather fields. When the four footers have arrived on the playground, they take their places on the round knolls. Each animal family keeps to itself, although it is understood that, on a day like this, universal peace reigns, and no one need fear attack. On this day a little hare might wander over to the fox's hill without losing as much as one of his long ears. But still the animals arrange themselves into separate groups. This is an old custom. After they have all taken their places, they begin to look around for the birds. It is always beautiful weather on this day. The cranes are good weather prophets, and would not call the animals together if they expected rain. Although the air is clear and nothing obstructs the vision, the four footers see no birds. This is strange. The sun stands high in the heavens, and the birds should already be on their way. But what the animals, on the other hand, observe, is one and another little dark cloud that comes slowly forward over the plain. And look! One of these clouds comes gradually along the coast of Öresund and up toward Kullaberg. When the cloud has come just over the playground, it stops, and, simultaneously, the entire cloud begins to ring and chirp as if it was made of nothing but tone. It rises and sinks, but all the while it rings and chirps. At last the whole cloud falls down over a knoll, all at once, and the next instant the knoll is entirely covered with gray larks, pretty red white gray bullfinches, speckled starlings, and greenish yellow titmice. Soon after that another cloud comes over the plain. This stops over every bit of land, over peasant cottage and palace, over towns and cities, over farms and railway stations, over fishing hamlets and sugar refineries. Every time it stops, it draws to itself a little whirling column of great dust grains from the ground. In this way it grows and grows, and at last, when it is all gathered up and heads for Kullaberg, it is no longer a cloud, but a whole mist, which is so big that it throws a shadow on the ground all the way from Höganäs to Mölle. When it stops over the playground, it hides the sun, and for a long while it had to rain gray sparrows on one of the knolls before those who had been flying in the innermost part of the mist could again catch a glimpse of the daylight. But still, the biggest of these bird clouds is the one which now appears. This has been formed of birds who have travelled from every direction to join it. It is dark bluish gray, and no sun ray can penetrate it. It is full of the ghastliest noises, the most frightful shrieks, the grimmest laughter, and most ill luck boding croaking. All on the playground are glad when it finally resolves itself into a storm of fluttering and croaking, of crows and jackdaws and rooks and ravens. Thereupon not only clouds are seen in the heavens, but a variety of stripes and figures. Then straight, dotted lines appear in the east and northeast. These are forest birds from Göinge districts, black grouse and wood grouse, who come flying in long lines a couple of meters apart. Swimming birds that live around Måkläppen, just out of Falsterbo, now come floating over.